Hello. We're really getting into it now. We're at case 4, which is the penultimate case. So this will either be likely, I will say, be all set up for case 5, and I am looking forward to it. We're playing Turion, Cuthbert. So, you know what? Let's just get right into it. That's what I think we should do. We've got all... Actually, before we start, I'm gonna make sure that... Before we start... Okay, that jazz needs to be turned down a little. Hang on. You know what? There's no save. Just really low put down to the bottom there. Because you can't hear it over me, you know? So, let's hop right into it. Up until now, we've been following the story of Turion Cuthbert. We've experienced the world through his eyes and fought for justice through his soul. But this time, why don't we start from the perspective of another? Episode 4, Severed Ties. Okay. I can't believe Cuthbert read the client's mind without asking. It's starting to become a problem. He's becoming more and more reckless with each passing year. I wish Frey was still alive. She would know what to do. She made it look so effortless, and he loved her. Would he have listened to her if she was still here? Beatrice Frege. Is something the matter, time or? No, I've got to put on a voice for the character, for my own character now. No, I was just thinking about something. Well, the trial is about to begin. I don't doubt your abilities, but I'd still appreciate it if you remained focused. All of our futures are at stake, after all. Of course, Miss Frege. Name, Beatrice Frege. Occupation, freelancer. Beatrice takes in a deep breath before he claps her hands together. What's wrong? Nothing, it's just the ritual that I used to calm myself. Right, I'd almost forgotten about that. But more importantly, what are you doing here? My father sent me to guide Beatrice through the courthouse. It's a new environment for her, and we were both worried about her condition. I still can't believe you were the boss's daughter this entire time. Why didn't you say anything at the academy? Oh, knowing my true identity would have caused friction with your son, wouldn't it? He's not my... Anyways, I suppose I understand why you stayed quiet. But I still don't appreciate being kept in the dark like this about this. Oh, speak of the devil. You spot Cuthbert and McCoy walking into the courtroom with the other members of the gallery. McCoy spots you and gives a friendly yet awkward smile. However, Cuthbert ignores you entirely and walks silently into the courtroom. Parental troubles? We had an argument earlier. It's nothing to worry about. If you say so. You are wary about what he saw in Beatrice's mind, though. He's always been a good kid, but his idealistic sense of justice clouds his judgment sometimes. You just hope that he's not planning to do anything reckless. The trial is about to begin. Do you have the time to be making small talk here? Prosecutor Steelwood approaches the three of you, but she appears to be accompanied by someone else. Nightgrave, is that you? What are you doing here? Well, he's accompanying me as my aide for this case. So I assume you'll be prosecuting. Of course, I would never pass up the opportunity to face the infamous Ruby Tybora. Really, if I recall, you haven't even beaten Turion once so far. Miss Steelwood, don't strain yourself. What's that look for, Beatrice? You almost look surprised to see me here. Considering the circumstances, I thought you might recuse yourself. I am more than capable of being objective, especially for a case of this much importance. Well, I hope your mind is as strong as you think it is. Miss Steelwood, please calm yourself. Calm down. Oh, how I love a good reunion. Court is now in session for the trial of Beatrice Frege. Miss Steelwood, is the prosecution ready? Miss Steelwood? Oh, of course. Prosecution is ready, Your Honor. The defense is also ready, Your Honor. Something seems off about her today. Is her personal attachment to this case distracting her? Very well, let's begin the proceedings. Prosecutor Steelwood, could you please list the charges? Your Honor, the defendant is charged with first-degree murder and grand theft. As many of you know, Beatrice Frege is the formerly missing daughter of the now late William Frege, and the victim of the murder is William Frege himself. Yes, I am well aware of that. The people of Wyvern will certainly mourn the loss of House Frege's head. Please, the only people mourning him are the banking house's shareholders. But anyways, did you also say that the defendant is accused of grand theft? Yes, Your Honour. The crime took place during the Lord's Ball. That was hosted in Frege Manor yesterday evening. The Haraldson Hall of History had a gallery display within the manor. They were showcasing several magical artifacts donated to the Wyvern Guards Historical Society. One of them was the Sword of Spell Eating, a magical artifact that allows its wielder to nullify the magical effects. Sword of Spell Eating. We, the prosecution, believe that the defendant stole this item. She then used it to nullify the magical lock on the victim's study. After breaking into the study, she attacked the victim and slashed his throat open using a letter opener. Why wouldn't she use the sword? He died of blood loss shortly after. I have to check the autopsy. But what possible motive would the defendant have to murder her own father? William Frege and his daughter were not close. Saying that they had a strained relationship would be an understatement. In fact, 5 years prior to the murder, Beatrice abandoned and fled her home. She went into hiding and did not contact any of her friends or family. Her whereabouts were unknown until she suddenly contacted her father a week ago. My client left the Frege household because of her toxic relationship with her father. She wanted to create a life for herself that was free from his influence and abuse. I won't disagree with your claims, but that just highlights how desperate the defendant must have been. She clearly fallen on hard times and begrudgingly contacted her father for financial aid. I can't possibly understand why they would schedule this meeting during the Lord's Ball. But nevertheless, several witnesses did see her that night. And these same witnesses saw her storming out of her father's study in anger. Her father must have refused her request for gold, so she decided to murder him to claim his inheritance. Luckily, we prepared for this in advance. Yes, they're playing right into our hands. What you're saying is all conjecture, Steelwind. You don't have any evidence or testimony that confirms that what they spoke about. Yes, I'm well aware that you and your client have refused to tell us what was discussed during the meeting. But as long as you both stay quiet, my claims are plausible. Be honest, Steelwind. Do you seriously think that my client committed these crimes in spite of her condition? Condition? What do you mean by that, Miss Tybor? Why don't you tell him, Steelwind? Tell the court about my client's disability. Beatrice, Your Honor, Beatrice Frager is considered legally disabled. However, legally disabled? That's a convenient way of putting it, Steelwind. My client isn't just legally disabled. She's completely blind. Completely blind? Is this true? It's a different judge each time, that's why. It's canon. I've decided it's officially a different judge each time. We have several medical documents and testimonies for several Chirurgeons attesting to that fact. My client is unable to see anything. Oh, okay, that's handy. What is the meaning of this, Miss Steelwind? Do you expect me to believe that a blind woman performed any of the acts you're accusing her of? I'm glad you also see how ridiculous these claims are, Your Honor. If the court would just allow me to elaborate. Steelwind, the prosecution's first charge is grand theft. My client would have needed to break into a magically secured display case. Performing such an action would be a difficult task for anyone, much less my client. And the second charge is first-degree murder. My client would have needed to use this sort of spell eating on the lock, leading to the victim's study. Then she would have needed to grab a letter opener, overpower the victim, and deliver a precise and fatal blow to the victim's neck. Does any of that sound like a reasonable theory, Your Honor? I'm compelled to agree with you, Miss Tybor. It all sounds quite ludicrous, to be perfectly honest. This is just awful. The Steelwinds are clearly attacking the Fragers now that their head is deceased. Objection. Enough. Your Honor, the court has not seen evidence that supports this case. Nor have you listened to the Inquisition's testimony regarding their investigation. Until you have done so, you are in no position to pass judgment. Very well, Miss Steelwind, I suppose you have a point. I guess the young lady has some claws after all. But it doesn't matter. Their case against Beatrice is questionable at best. Frankly, it's surprising Steelwind even went through with this. It's only a matter of time before the judge sees things your way. To begin, the prosecution would like to call Commander R.M. White to the stand. Commander White, please testify to the court about the Inquisition's findings. Right. We didn't want to cause panic after the sword was stolen, so we activated the Manor's silent security system. It put an anti-magic field over the entire manor. We did a search of the house. We found a stolen sword in the defendant's bedroom. It didn't look like he was going to run, and Crown Prince Asta told us to stand down, so we just kept a close eye on her. William Frager was in a bad mood that night, so he had locked himself inside his study. But an hour later, we entered the study and found him lying dead in a pool of blood. The lock was still engaged. No one teleported in. The pup must have temporarily disabled the lock using this sort of spell eating. We have testimonies that say the defendant was seriously in debt. She must have murdered the victim to get part of his inheritance. Their case against Beatrice is just as you predicted. You already have a countermeasure to disprove the existence of any motive. All you have to do is present that to the court. As per your... William told Miriam Frege that he would remove Beatrice from his will as a result. Okay. Yep, this is relatively easy. Your Honor, the prosecution's case against my client is riddled with holes, and the prosecution's proposed motive is the largest among them. What do you mean, Miss Timora? Of all the elements in this case, the motive is the most believable. Your client would have had much to gain through her father's inheritance. That may be, but that's assuming my client had anything to inherit at all. What? Your Honor, my client fled from her psychologically abusive father 5 years ago. How do you think he would have reacted to that? Lord Frege was a petty and vindictive man. Do you honestly think that he'd leave his inheritance to someone who disobeyed him so egregiously? No, he'd do everything in his power to make sure she didn't see a shred of his wealth. Yes, we're already well aware of this. The moment she slams her cane down, you notice the prosecutor wince a little. But she quickly hides it and regains her composure. On the night of the murder, the victim made the decision to disinherit defendant. However, his murder deprived him of the opportunity to submit his will to his attorney. This only proves the defendant's motive. She would have needed to act quickly, lest her father submitted the changed will. I'm afraid you're mistaken, Steelwind. William didn't disinherit my client that night. He disinherited my client 5 years ago. I have witnessed testimony from Miriam Frager, William's youngest daughter. By her own admission, her father disinherited my client shortly after she fled the household. What? She never brought that up during questioning? Perhaps she's not as amicable to you as you thought. If you don't believe me, why don't we call her to the stand and ask her ourselves? What are you planning, Miss Timora? I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, it's clear we won't get anywhere until we hear from Miriam directly. Bailiff, please escort Miriam Frigga to the stand. Miriam, is the defense correct? Did your father disinherit Beatrice 5 years ago? Yes. And you didn't think it was necessary to share this information with me? Well, you never asked. If I recall, you also were tight-lipped during questioning this morning. Are you staying quiet for your sister's sake? The witness just lost her father. You can hardly expect her to recall every detail that's relevant to the case. Which raises a more concerning question. How did you extract this information? Who knows? Maybe I just have a way with people. Regardless, I suppose that you have a point. I'll give the witness the benefit of the doubt for now. In any case, please, Miriam, please testify to the court about how you found out about Beatrice's disinheritance. Yes, of course. One day we all woke up and discovered Beatrice had fled from our home. She left a note for us, and in it she renounced her name and denounced my father. My father later called me and my sister into his study. He told us that he'd completely disowned Beatrice and removed any claim she had to the Frager estate. It was probably a threat to us in case we ever chose to go down the same path that she did. He wanted to make an example out of her. This all happened 5 years ago. And Oh. Hello, Luna. Hello. Thanks for the follow. We're playing Turion Cuthbert. We're case 4 at the moment. So, How are you doing? It's a visual novel, so there will be a lot of talking. I may not always be able to get to see chat. I should. And are you sure all of this? Are you sure this all happened 5 years ago? Yes. Even now, I can remember everything clearly. I see. Her speech is getting slower. Is she deep in thought? Nightgrave seems extremely concerned for some reason. And was... And was she, was there with you at this meeting? Yes, she was. However, Leif couldn't have possibly been there. Her words are getting more slurred. You are also noticing that her balance is slightly swaying. Hey, are you okay? Of course, Oh, run! Okay. What? By the scaled lord, is that blood? Blood? Bailiff, find anyone capable of casting healing magic. Escort them to the courtroom immediately. Good to know that Nightgrave is here. Oh, the steward's doing great. We run it through. After some scrambling, a couple of healers are able to help Nightgrave stabilize the prosecutor. In all the chaos, you caught a glimpse of her. There were deep wounds and blood on several parts of her body. She must have used some kind of illusion to hide them, but her disguise has completely dissipated now. Before Steelwind is taken out of the courtroom, you catch her whispering something into Nightgrave's ear. You see a look of confusion from him, but he nods and makes his way to the witness stand. But not before passing a message on to the bailiff, who seems equally confused. Just what the hell is going on? Mr. Nightgrave, explain yourself. Oh. Yeah, I don't post much on the on the Twitter. Side. I really should. It's just for advertising, really. Mr. Nightgrave, explain yourself. What is going on? Why was Miss Steelwind so gravely injured? I'm sorry, but I wasn't actually here as Miss Steelwind's aide. I was here as her healer. Her healer? The truth is, Miss Steelwind was violently attacked at noon today. She was in critical condition, but she insisted on prosecuting the case anyways. I owed her a favour, and she asked me to channel my necromancy to keep her wounds closed during the trial. Scaled Lord, why didn't she just recuse herself? She must have known. If anyone else tried to prosecute Beatrice, you would have handily won the trial. Nevertheless, she showed up to prosecute because no one else would. And she did it all despite the risk to her life. Or makes you respect her a little. Almost. Anyways, is there any need to prolong this trial, Your Honor? What? Even you must acknowledge how weak the case against my client is. In addition to that, Miriam's testimony shows that my client had nothing to gain from her father's death. This time more, Miss Steelwood has been gravely injured. And you're still only concerned about... The only thing I'm concerned about is seeking justice for my client. Even so, we cannot move forward until we find another prosecutor. And how long do you think that will take, Your Honor? It's almost been 12 years since the murder took place. Almost been 12 hours. 12 hours, not 12 years. Jeez, that's a lot. That would be a long time. That gives us, what, 36 hours? After that, every magical trace at the crime scene will fully disappear. But there might be someone. If Steelwind had simply allowed another prosecutor to work this case, we wouldn't be in this situation. She took a risk, now she has to pay the price. Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor? You're not exactly proud of winning this way. But this is what it takes to win. And you won't let an opportunity like this pass you by. The judge is clearly unhappy with this turn of events. But it's out of his hands now. Well, due to today's unprecedented events, I suppose I have no choice. There aren't any prosecutors available to immediately take Miss Steelwood's place. We will take a brief recess. After that, I'll deliver my verdict.
Objection!
Oh! Turion! Your Honor, I'm afraid you can't pass pass a verdict just yet. Mr. Cuthbert! Cuthbert! What the hell are you doing? I don't know. But what I do know is that there was a massive contradiction in Miriam Frager's testimony. But it looks like things aren't going to be as simple as you expected. Would you like to save your progress? Are we switching perspectives, or the night before? Whoa. This is unprecedented. In this game, anyway. I mean, Ace Attorney does stuff like that all the time, but this is an Ace Attorney. Ugh, I feel so out of place here. Despite your clear hatred of nobility, you found yourself at a party filled with aristocrats. You hardly recognize anyone, but many of the people here clearly recognize you. You're used to receiving dirty looks from the upper class, but you can feel everyone's disdain from you over you. Why are you in a corner by yourself? I can't believe I let you talk me into coming here. For reasons unknown, you lose your train of thought. I've been wanting to wear this dress for a while now. What do you think? What's wrong? You suddenly feel extremely flustered to make eye contact with her. Oh, I see. Are you enchanted by my beauty? Come on, say something. Ever since that night in Aranax, you felt like something has been off between you two. Am I interrupting something? Miss Timora! I wanted to check in on you two before we went to meet with Lord Frege. You spot a woman silently following behind her. Is she the client Miss Timora is representing? You're pretty sure this is your first time meeting her, but she still looks familiar for some reason. Hi, I'm Turion Cuthbert. I'm Miss Timora's ward. You extend a hand out to shake hers. She has an aristocratic air to her, so you hope you're not being too informal. Instead of taking your hand, she claps her hands together and takes a deep breath. What? Ah, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. It's a bit of a habit of mine. Oh. Nevertheless, she finally shakes your hand. I've heard much about you, Mr. Cuthbert. My name's Beatrice. You're not sure about the details, but your mentor appears to be brokering a deal between Beatrice and William Frege. William Frege is the ruling lord of House Frege. So you're a little curious about what kind of deal he'd be involved in. But you've learned not to pry into your mentor's business. Anyways, we'll probably be gone for a while. Can I trust you two not to cause trouble? You're in a manor filled with the highest members of the nobility. You might meet some familiar yet unfriendly faces. We'll keep a low profile, Miss Timora. Please do. So why were you so insistent on accompanying Miss Timora to the Lord's ball? Ah, that's... You know you can tell me anything, right? I guess everything that happened to Daranax made me think about things. I don't really know anything about my past or where I came from. I didn't want to think about it because my dad and mom, but you wanted to find out who your biological parents are. I do, but I don't know now. Being here is starting to make me feel weird. I still have my mom, and looking for my birth parents feels wrong somehow. I don't think that's true. Really? Miss Timora adopted me when I was a child, and she gave me a purpose in life. But I still keep my childhood memories of my mother close to me. Miss Timora and my mother are both important to me. I don't think it's disrespectful to find out more about yourself, and I'm sure your mother will understand. You think so? Of course. And I'm also sure of another thing. If I'm with you, I doubt any nobles here will want to speak with you. Yeah, I don't want to be rude, but don't worry, I can find something to fill the time. You're just going to play chess alone, aren't you? Maybe? You really need to learn to talk to other people. Make some new friends or something. I don't need more friends. I usually want to spend most of my time with you anyways. Anyways, I'm going to try to talk to some people. Yeah, I'll see you later. Celeste leaves to mingle with some of the other partygoers. You find yourself with very little to do, and you doubt anyone would want to engage in small talk from the likes of you. Your hand instinctively goes to your satchel. It contains your foldable chessboard. Well, it's not as if I have anything better to do. I should try to find an empty table to play on. We check the table. Each table has a centerpiece on it. Most of the seats at the tables are filled. It doesn't look like you'll be able to play here. Dang. Maybe there'll be stuff in the hallway. This place looks pretty quiet, but there aren't any tables anywhere. I could play on the floor. What the? While walking through the hallways, you suddenly find yourself face to face with a large wolf. Immediately upon seeing you, the wolf quickly gallops away. Did someone leave a door open? You think about telling someone, but you remember that the manor is full of nobles. You're sure a servant will spot it eventually. And it's not as if anyone will believe you anyways. But it's probably be best to find somewhere else to play. Okay, the gallery. You look further around the manor and find a room with several displays. It looks like a gallery of some sort, but it's slightly out of place here. There are a few nobles in the room, and they're all appreciating the exhibit. Perhaps Lord Frege paid a museum to create some historical displays for the Lord's Ball. Now there's a face I haven't seen before. Oh, look at that! Look at that monkey. We like the monkey. As you take a look at one of the exhibits, an old man approaches you. Is that a monkey on his back? Harold Haraldson. Oh, yeah. This is great. Hello. My name is Harold Haraldson. I'm the curator of this collection. Harold Haraldson, is that a pseudonym or something? No. Name Harold Haraldson. Historian. I see. Wait, he's a museum curator? He must be extremely knowledgeable about Wyvern history. You wonder. Would you happen to know anything about the ancient dragons? Ah, like the Scaled Lord Rathleon. There are many pieces in this gallery, and some of them that were wielded by the 7 heroes. Some of them were items that were wielded by the 7 heroes of Wyvern. Legends say that some of these items were directly enchanted by Rathleon himself. Enchanted by Rathleon? Would that mean they also don't follow the rules of magic? Perhaps you should examine these items more closely. It's a crimson red sword. That's the sword of spell eating. Legends say that it has the power to protect its wielder from any kind of magic. So it's like an anti-magic field. In a way, yes. But it has yet less than heroic origins, I'm afraid. It's said that the sword was created through a blood pact between a mage and a demon. A demon? Legends say that some demons had the power to absorb and never fly magic. A demon must have imbued some of that power into this sword. Or at least that's what the legends say. Is it safe to put something like that on this on display? What if the legends are true? Don't worry, these displays are fortified with several abjuration spells. I'd bet even Lord Steelwind would have trouble getting into this. What's this? A pair of metallic armbands. There are several magic runes cut into them. Those are the armbands of intellect. They were actually created by a member of House Frege many centuries ago. Centuries? That would make these armbands one of the first creations of artificery. That's correct. Legends say that whoever wore these armbands would be granted unparalleled levels of intellect. Many believed that House Frege created these to aid in their study of magic. It's a pair of golden earrings. There are small jewels embedded into each of them. These are the earrings of vitality. It's said that the Scaled Lord imbued a portion of his immortality into these. Legends say that whoever wore them would have their lifespan increased tenfold. The Scaled Lord could do things like that? Of course, he is the Scaled Lord after all. Earrings of vitality. Are there any spells that can create a similar effect to these earrings? Not that I know of. A spell like that would probably fall under the school of necromancy. And I'm sure you know how much the kingdom scrutinizes that kind of magic. Not the paintings or anything really. Harold Haraldson. So what is a historian doing at the Lord's Ball, Mr. Harrison? Harold. Right, Harold. Anyways, Lord Frege invites my museum to set up some displays here every year. You must think he acts a semblance of culture, the fool. You own a museum? Yes, it's the Haraldson Hall of History, here in Holmherth. It's a lot of pages. It's a mouthful. Unfortunately, I doubt his guests. I don't think his guests appreciate the historical significance of these items. Honestly, I think you're the only person in years who's taking a meaningful interest in them. Small monkey. Sorry, but I really have to ask, is that a monkey riding on your back? Yes, this is my familiar, Eugene. Your familiar? A familiar is a creature that a mage has formed a magical bond with. With that bond, our souls are forever connected. I can communicate with him telepathically. I could even cast my spells through him if I wanted to. Really, I never knew a spell like that existed. It's quite rare. Very few mages take the time to learn how to cast it. Familial bond. I'd want it. Eugene helps me with my day-to-day. These old pods aren't as spry as they used to be after all. The ancient dragons. Mr. I mean Harold. Harold? As a historian, do you have a lot of knowledge about the ancient dragons? The answer to that is a question. The answer to that question is somewhat complicated. What do you mean? Unfortunately, a lot of historical texts have been altered, or even outright destroyed by the Church of Bahamut. Because of that, it's quite difficult to separate myths from actual historical accounts. Right, I remember encountering a similar problem at the Imperial Academy. Then you must be quite dedicated to your studies. They let this simpleton into the Imperial Academy? Rude, but you suppose that it can't be helped. I had to fight the church for a long time before I could even display dragon bones in my museum. The power of the dragons. In the history of the ancient dragons, was there any instance of them granting powers to humans? Well, of course. That's the entire premise behind the 7 heroes of Wyvern. This idiot not even know who about that. Right, but was there anything before that? Did they ever grant supernatural abilities that didn't follow the rules of arcane magic? Granting supernatural abilities, you say? That sounds more like demonic something more demonic in nature, rather than draconic. Demonic. Much like the ancient dragons, demons are the stuff of myths. There are many stories of people selling their souls to them for untold power. Selling their souls. You recall the note that your mother left for you before she was executed. Use my eyes. Here beyond the defined gate is what I once did. She told her to use her eyes. Did your mother make a deal with a demon to give you the eyes of Horus? Is something wrong? Is something wrong? This simpleton is far too superstitious. No, nothing's wrong. It's a bit much to take in, but you might just be overthinking this. There haven't been any recorded sightings of demons in recent history. There are only second-hand stories and superstitions. The Eye of Horus can't possibly be demonic, can it? You hope Celeste's investigation is going better than yours. How dare you insinuate that I engaged in a adulterous relationship? That's not what I... If you try to speak with me again, I'll have the King's Guard throw you out. Ugh, this isn't working. I don't think asking them like that will be very effective. What? Did you expect anyone here to be truthful with you? You're essentially asking them if they cheated on their spouses. Have you been spying on me? Not intentionally. I was just surprised to see you here of all places. Right, I guess that makes sense. You're not planning on... You're not party crashing, are you? Of course not. I came here with Ruby and Turion. That honestly raises more questions than answers, but I'll take your word for it. Anyways, you're looking for your birth parents, aren't you? Was I being that obvious? It's the only reason I could think of. Why else would you be trying to speak with members of the nobility? I don't know if it's any of my business. But think hard whether this is what you truly want. Getting entangled in the aristocracy will only bring you misery. I've read your file. You have everything you could ever want. You have your mother and your friends, and you even have a lover. What? You're in a relationship with Mr. Cuthbert, are you not? No, Tyrion's not my... Really, from the way you two behave around one another, I just assumed. It's pretty obvious you have feelings for him. What? How obvious? Did he seriously not notice? I'd think someone with his deductive reasoning would easily see through this. Through you. Oh, yeah? What about you and Asta? I have no idea what you're talking about. Come on, I was there at Von Hagtus Manor. It's so obvious you like him. Please, you're grossly exaggerating things. He may be my fiancé, but I only have the utmost respect for him. Mm. And what if I told you he was standing right behind you? Do you honestly think I'd fall for something like that? What are you falling for? Your Highness! Oh, hello, Lady Steelwind. Your Highness, please don't run ahead like that. Your conversation with Harold was definitely interesting, but you still find yourself with very few leads. Be it dragons or demons, the origins of the Eye of Horus still remain a mystery. You find yourself returning to the ballroom and you spot Celeste in the corner with some other people. Is she with Asta and Steelwind? Hey Asta, what do you think of Steelwind's dress? Suits you very well, Miss Steelwind. You look lovely. Squeak! Gross. As you approach, you're stopped by a knight from the King's Guard. He stares you down. What? Barrier Arcanum. That was the incantation for detect magic. Repario Arcanum. I can say that one. The knight stares you up and down. Celeste hasn't cast any spells on you lately, so he shouldn't be able to see any traces of magic. Oh, Mr. Cuthbert. What was that all about? My apologies. They were making sure you weren't disguising yourself with an illusion. The King's Guard are charged with keeping us safe. They must take every precaution to protect us. Oh, and who might you be? Do not speak with so familiarly with me, peasant. Arg! Don't speak to him like that. Why shouldn't I speak to him as I please? I am Prince Alarg, the Wyvern the Sixth. Yeah, the Sixth. I will not demote myself by showing courtesy to a commoner. Doesn't he mean to mean? I'm terribly sorry about him, Mr. Cuthbert. It's fine. Anyways, weren't you supposed to be investigating your birth parents? Leave the poor woman alone. She started it. Right. I'm actually quite surprised to see you both here. What brings you to the Lord's ball, Mr. Cuthbert? We were just accompanying Miss Timora, her client's business with Lord Frege. Her client? Anger. Beatrice. Beatrice suddenly storms through the ballroom. She almost walks right past you before she hears Asta's voice. She looks furious. Did her discussion with Lord Frege go badly? Oh, that voice. Is that you, Asta? It really is you. She called him Asta instead of Your Highness. Do they do they personally know each other? I'm glad to see you again. It's been quite some time. Is that really all you have to say? Oh, it's an X. It appears you two have much to talk about. I'll be taking my leave. There's a bit of tension in the air. Celeste, we should probably get going. Yeah. Wow, that was awkward. I wonder how those two know each other. She's working with Timora, but she somehow knows how Lord Frege and the Crown Prince. Just who is she? Well, you suppose it's none of your business. Anyways, how did your investigation go? I got nothing. I think all I did was make a bunch of nobles mad. I know you... Sorry, I know you really wanted answers. But I'm sure something will come up. You think so? It might be a little irresponsible to give her hope like this. A noble abandoned her at a tavern in a rundown village. You doubt someone like that would make themselves easy to find. Anyways, I don't want this night to be a total loss. Come on, dance with me. What? That's not really something I... Don't be like that. How often do we get to go to a party like this? Before you have a chance to object, she grabs your hand and starts dragging you to the middle of the room. You receive a few dirty looks from the aristocrats nearby. Celeste, people are staring at us. Who cares what they think? They're nobles. They're going to hate us no matter what we do. She takes hold of your other hand and begins to pull you into a waltz. I don't even know how to dance. I've never done this before. It's easy, just stop being so awkward about it. It's easy for her to say. Alright, just tell me what I need to do. Well, first, you need to be closer to me. With one swift motion, she pulls your body closer to hers. Watch my movements and try to follow my lead. You seem to know a lot about these things. I had to do a lot of networking when I was a mercenary. Do you know how many times I had to charm a merchant into hiring me? I see. You really don't know much about her, do you? You carefully watch the position of her feet, trying to match her movements. After a while, you find yourself able to match her rhythm. But you still accidentally step on her foot every few beats. She doesn't seem fazed by it. Either she's being polite or she genuinely doesn't feel anything. It could be either one. You're getting it. But don't focus so much on where your feet are. Just look at me. What? Come on. Do it. You try to break eye contact with her, but every time you do, you slowly find yourself being drawn back into her eyes. You feel so embarrassed that you're becoming lightheaded and find yourself perspiring more than usual. All the big words coming out today. Okay. But at the same time, you don't have any urge to break away from her. There's a comforting warmth behind all the anxiety you're feeling. Ah, there he is. The infamous Turion Cuthbert. Never turns away from challenging a noble, but can't dance to a step to save his life. So. Her expression doesn't betray a hint of it, but you still detect feelings of nervousness from her. Is she just as flustered as you are? You find yourself relaxing a bit more. You're somehow able to continue matching her movements. See? There you go. Although, what is it? You know the man is supposed to lead, right? Maybe I don't subscribe to gender stereotypes. Or maybe you just suck at this. It's been a while since you've felt this calm. There's always been something that you needed to prepare for. A client that needs saving, a culprit that needs catching. But you're quite content with this one brief moment you're able to spend with her. You almost find yourself getting lost in the mood until you spot a familiar face accompanied by a legion of knights. No, don't tell me. The knights storm their way toward Beatrice and Asta, where Beatrice and Asta are. Several of the attendees take notice. They all stop what they're doing to see what's going on. Beatrice Frege, by the authority of the Wyvern Guard Crown, you're under arrest. Did he just say Beatrice Frege? Damn it, it was just getting good. We should go see what's happening, shouldn't we? Yeah, let's go. You are completely out of line, Commander. I thought I told you to stand down. Do you not recognize who you're speaking to? Let Lady Frege go. I can't really do that, Your Highness. Asta, what's going on? It's Frege. Lord Frege. He was found murdered in his study. And these cretins think Beatrice is behind it somehow. Sorry, Your Highness, but my orders come straight from Steelwind. Lady Steelwind sent you? Beatrice takes in a deep breath and claps her hands together. I think I should go with them. What? No! My brother is right. They have no right to. I don't want to cause friction between you and Ariel. She's always been meticulous. I'm sure she's just being careful. I'm sure I'll be exonerated once they've thoroughly investigated what happened. Okay. Only if that's what you truly want. What? You can't just let them take her away? Brother, she's correct. It is not our place to interfere with the laws of our kingdom. But, however... Yes, your highness. Miss Beatrice is blind. One of your knights will need to escort her. She's what? Did he just say that she's blind? Beatrice's blindness. Oh, yeah. Does he have the... Yeah, he has a completely different set of... Anyways, we're going to need to take you to a holding cell, lady. One of you should stay with her, guide her through. Please, I may be disabled, but I'm not a child. She's got the wolf on her. She's the owner of the wolf. Beatrice walks past the knights and heads towards the foyer. It appears that she already knows the way out. Shouldn't you all be following her? Right. Inquisition. Move out. You definitely didn't expect the night to go like this. Just what is going on here? Huh. I can't believe they kept us here until noon. The Lord's Ball was already running well until that... well into that evening. Into that night. Even before the murder occurred. You'd like nothing more than to catch up on your lost sleep. But you made a promise to Asta. This doesn't make any sense. Beatrice was with me and my brother the entire night. You were there, right? You were there when she met him in Steelwood. She couldn't have stolen the sort of spell eating and murdered her father. I don't understand. Of all the people who could have done it, why would Steelwood suspect a blind woman? Mr. Cuthbert, could you defend Beatrice of against these awful charges? I don't think I even need to. What? Beatrice is Ruby's client. I'm sure she'll be the one defending her. Well, that puts my mind at ease. What's wrong? I don't know if I'm asking too much of you, but could you still investigate the crime scene for me, Mr. Cuthbert? But we just said that Miss Timora will... I know, and I don't doubt her abilities. But Beatrice is a dear friend of mine. I'd like every chance for her to be found innocent. He said that she was a dear friend. They must know each other since she's a Frege. But why would Miss Timora, of all people, represent a member of a noble house? There are a lot of things you don't know about her. I also don't... Of course, I'll also compensate you for your services. Consider yourself blessed. A commoner like you could only dream of a job like this. Alaric. The tiny prince of some point, though payment from the crown prince does sound tempting. I can't believe this. Celeste returns to the ballroom as she's changed back into her normal clothes. What's wrong? The people in the coat rooms said that they couldn't find my sword. They told me someone must have stolen it. What? Celeste's missing sword. Why would someone want to steal Celeste's sword? Aside from your group, everyone else at the ball was an aristocrat. You do recall her saying it was forged in the Eastern Kingdoms. Someone might have stolen it because of its rarity. We could probably keep an eye out for it while we investigate the matter. This might all just be some kind of mistake. I hope so. Where should we start first? We should head to the crime scene. I remember hearing that they found Lord Freyga's body in his study. Let's go over there. William Freyga's study. You arrive at the crime scene and see the usual swarm of Inquisition knights. However, you also spot some members of the King's Guard. They must be working together, since the victim is from one of the Pillar families. I wasn't expected to see you, Mr. Cuthbert. I thought Mr. Ruby Tymora was defending this case. Prosecutor Steelwood approaches you as you enter the study, and she's followed by an unexpected yet familiar face. Wallace? What are you doing here? He's here as my aide for the investigation. You don't doubt Wallace's abilities, but you can't think of any reason why Miss Steelwood would need his help. But you suppose it's none of your business. Anyways, we're here on behalf of Crown Prince Asta. You hired us to investigate this case. He hired us to investigate this case independently. I see. I'm sure he just wants to make sure the investigation goes smoothly. Well, if you're here on behalf of His Highness, I'll do whatever I can to help you. The whole situation is quite unorthodox, but your goal remains the same. Perhaps Steelwood can tell you more about what happened. What can you tell me about this murder? William Freyga was found dead in this room after the lockdown was lifted. Wait, lockdown? What lockdown? From what we can tell, his throat had been slashed open with a letter opener.
Come on!
Oh? Hello, stop tripping. How'd you do? Thanks for the follow. We're playing Turion Cuthbert at the moment. I can't keep a full proper eye on chat because it's a visual novel. It's gonna be a lot of reading on my part. Oh, I'm doing fine. Just fine. Oh. Little bit of I heard obviously Better Basics is season 2 is coming around. I'm not going to be joining season 2. It is for personal reasons, but the cause of death was blood loss. Both of his carotid arteries were severed. Here's the autopsy report if you want a detailed description. Here's the autopsy. Were you able to find the murder weapon? Yes, the murderer left it at the crime scene. It was a letter opened by the victim. The murderer must have found it in this room and used it. There was one strange detail about the weapon. The handle was completely shattered. We're not sure what to make of that detail, but it's as if something crushed the handle using tremendous force. Huh. What could have caused the hand to shatter like that? You mentioned that there was lockdown. When did this happen? You didn't notice the Inquisition did try to be discreet, but everyone noticed the commotion should Beatrice and the two princes made over for it. I suppose you two must have been lost in your own little world, weren't you? No. Well, anyways, you said that Lord Frago was found after the lockdown. That means something else happened prior. Supposedly, someone had broken into one of Haraldson's exhibits. One of the magical artifacts was stolen. So there was also a theft last night. Does the Madness lockdown system behave like the one at the Imperial Academy? The systems are somewhat different. Unlike the Imperial Academy, the lockdown only prevents people from leaving or entering the manor. So not all the rooms were locked. But what about this specific room? This room does have abjuration wards that lock the door and prevent teleportation in and out of it. And in addition, the system placed an anti-magic field over the manor. An anti-magic field? What is that? Anti-magic field is spell that nullifies all magic within it. With the system somehow covered, and the system somehow covered the entire mana in this effect. If you notice, there are several purple crystals embedded in the walls of the mana. Each of those crystals produced an anti-magic field during lockdown. Oh, yeah, you're not coming back for season 2 either? I kind of, what I did was, I took a picture of my base, and that was about it. With in the realm of broken balance, not broken. Should I say broken? Within better basics, it's the same. I didn't really have. Oh, you weren't invited back? I'd have said that you were actually quite active on the server. Yeah. So no one could cast magic during the entirety of the lockdown. Not exactly. Someone could have used the stolen artifact to circumvent it. You mentioned that someone could have used the stolen artifact to get past the anti-magic fields. Which artifact was it? Yeah. Holding. There are no grudges held. Which is good. But as I said, I did think you were one of the more active people. At least that's my personal opinion, but I'm not a mod, am I? It was the Sword of Spell. Like, personality-wise, you're not that different from Sonic, so... Yeah, but personality-wise, like... You're not that different from Sonic. Yeah, the game's short. Yeah, this is Turion Cuthbert. We're about case 4. So this has been an ongoing series I've been playing for quite some time now. On stream, and obviously it's a bit like the Ace Attorney games. If you're familiar with them. If the legends were true, someone could have used it to counteract the lockdown system. After Lord Haraldson reported theft, of course he's a lord. Everyone's favourite guy, Lord Harold Haraldson. They searched every room in the manor to try and find it. Oh, crap. I was gonna say which clown, but I know which clown. The only clown everyone knows about. I remember when the famous clown of Ace Attorney was the one from Big Top. God, that was an annoying clown. Oh god. Yeah, I haven't played Justice Spirit of Justice. That's the game that particular cloud comes from. In fact, I have to say that particular cloud just increases the absurdity of that joke. That led them to believe that she had stolen it. That's correct. The King's Guard moved to arrest her, but Prince Asta ordered them to step down. It didn't look like she was planning on fleeing, so they planned to wait until after the party had ended. But then they found Lord Freyger's body. Correct, we believe that she used the stolen sword to nullify the magical locks and break into Lord Freyger's study. But if she had the sword, why wouldn't she use that to commit the murder? We're not entirely sure. We have a few working theories. She might have wanted to prevent the theft from being tied to the murder. Or perhaps she had more confidence wielding a knife over a sword. Regardless of her reasons, it's clear that the sword wasn't the murder weapon. There's always one in every game. Well, there's only 2 and there's a total of 6 mainline games. Which, whilst granted 2 out of 6 is like, that's a third of the series has a clown. It's still not I mean, unless you count Shamsphere as a clown, and then that, but then you'd have to count the spin-offs as well, which would up the total up to 5. That's 11, which just makes the number harder to find. 3/11ths. I'm not good at maths. So she's not just being implicated in Lord Freyger's murder, she's also being charged with stealing the sword of spell eating. What possible reason would she have to do either of those crimes? Lord Freyger in the study. Since the body was found here, was Lord Freyger locked in this room during the lockdown? Yes, William Frege knew that this room should have been secured. He was supposedly in a bad mood and had locked himself in this room for most of the night. He refused to let anyone into the room. The only person he spoke to after that was his daughter. His daughter? Are you talking about Miriam? No, Lord Frege had another daughter. I'm referring to Leif Frege, Lord Frege's middle child. She tried to tell her father about the theft, but he was apparently preoccupied with something else. He said he wanted to stay in his study for the rest of the night. When did this happen? It was shortly before the lockdown was activated, a little after 1 a.m. I see. Well, Leif looks incredibly different, but yeah, that looks like an affair that has happened. You should get more details. You should speak with her, get more details about Lord Frege's actions that night. By the way, Steelwitz, do you have a map of the matter? I do. Would you like a copy? Please and thank you. If it pleases the court. Floor 2. Please don't be a floor 3. Thank God. Witnesses. Were there any other witnesses aside from Leif who saw Lord Frege that night? Perhaps someone heard what happened from a nearby room. There was someone who heard the altercation, but it was quite obscured. A servant was trapped in a storage room nearby. There's an air vent that connects this room with that storage room. He supposedly heard sounds of struggle through that vent. What does this witness hear? There were sounds of struggle before he heard Lord Frege choking on his own blood. Ooh, that's a nasty way to go. Just an awful way. That's when they just... Hang on, we'll log. I've missed a bit. When the lockdown was lifted, he informed the King's Guard of what he heard. That's when they discovered the body. I see. Who was this servant? I do believe you actually know him. His name is Jan Hughes. Wait, Mr. Hughes is here? You never expected to see him again, much less here of all places. But if he heard the altercation, you'll definitely want to speak with him. I think I'm lacking a lot of information about the defendant. From the way you were both acting, you and Asta seem to know her. Your mentor didn't tell you about her? No, I try not to pry into her business. I see. I honestly don't know much about what happened either. But Beatrice was Lord Frege's eldest daughter and former heir to House Frege. Former heir? About 5 years ago, she fled Frege Manor and went into hiding. None of us knew where she'd gone. She ignored any attempts we made to contact her. She even used her magic to prevent us from scrying her. Last night's ball was the first time in years Asta and I had seen her. But if that's true, how did Miss Timora meet her? The meeting. Would you happen to know why Beatrice was meeting with her father after all these years? I have some ideas, but nothing concrete. I was hoping you could tell me. The Timora and Beatrice have both refused to disclose anything about their meeting. Damn it. What could that meeting have been about? Speaking of which, I haven't seen Timora anywhere in the matter. As the defendant's attorney, I would have thought that she'd be here to investigate the murder alongside you. That is strange, but Miss Timora has always had her own way of doing things. Is Timora a forger? I kind of hope so. Perhaps she's using a different strategy. Anyways, I imagine that she met with her father to request financial aid. Why do you say that? I have it on good authority that she was deeply in debt. That's the only reason why she would speak with her father after all these years. It's also why I believed she murdered her mother. You think she murdered him for his inheritance? It's the only motive that makes sense. Alright, there's a lot of work here. Prosecution will try to assert Beatrice has committed the murder. What would she have needed to do to carry out all the actions described? So the first thing we need to do is narrow down the time in which the murder occurred. When did the murder occur? Frege was... He entered his study. She watched as the lock engaged. Alright, when did the murder... The murder occurred... before the lockdown. No, because if we assume Leif was alive... Oh, okay, yeah. But that occurred after the lockdown. Was alive before the... Not only that... He said that... Study, which means that he probably never left his study. Right. Just test all theories. Right, the murder must have occurred during the lockdown. But that means that the murder somehow got past the abjuration wards that protected this room. These wards block teleportation, and they've magically locked the door leading into this room. Steelwind and the Inquisition believe that Beatrice used the sort of spell eating to get past them. Regardless of what they think, we need to assume that the murder used some kind of magic nullification to get into William's study. But that's not necessarily true, is it? What if the murderer entered the room before William locked it? If they were in the room when William locked it, they would have been trapped here until he decided to leave. Not only that, they would have been discovered the moment the guards entered his study. Maybe they used some kind of invisibility? Or they could have teleported away the moment the king's guards unlocked the door. Teleportation didn't occur. We didn't find any traces of conjuration magic. What about Celeste's theory of an invisible assailant? I'll admit that we did find traces of illusion magic, but the moment the guards saw the body, one of them cast detect magic. With that spell, they would have seen an invisible people hiding in this room. Wait, you can use detect magic like that? Of course, it's standard procedure. Like all spells, invisibility leaves traces of magic on the person it's cast on. So mages could use detect magic to see through invisibility. So we know for sure that they weren't here before or after the lockdown. This means that whoever committed the murder used some way to bypass abjurative wards that protect this room. Method of entry. The next thing to consider is the murder weapon. Where did the murder weapon come from? The murderer probably used it to avoid leaving evidence incriminated them. The murderer took the artifact. Took the murder. Oh, the murderer took the murder weapon. There it is. Finally found it. Jeez. Outside the manor. Hid the murder weapon. Where did it come from? Frager's study. No, because the room's locked. Beatrice's room. In his storage room? No. Better open. It's a weird way of saying it, but yeah. Right, the letter opener came from this room. The murderer probably wanted to avoid using a weapon that would have implicated them. So they decided to use it and leave it here after the deed was done. But that leaves a glaring hole in the prosecution's case. And what would that be, Mr. Cuthbert? What is flawed with the prosecution's case? It's completely blind. Beatrice Frege is completely blind. Even if she were somehow able to break into a highly guarded exhibit, how did she slip past the guards and enter the Lord Frege's study? Furthermore, how did she locate the letter opener if she couldn't see it in the first place? None of it makes sense. Committing this murder would have been a tall order for anyone. I can't hardly believe a blind person did all of this. You do well not to underestimate her, Mr. Cuthbert. What? You don't know her as well as I do. She's far more capable than you realize. She must be the one behind this. I suppose I wouldn't know, but the idea that Beatrice did any of this is still ludicrous. I suppose I can't change your mind about that. But I have to ask you a question, Mr. Cuthbert. What would you do if you discovered that one of your clients was guilty? What? I mean, I tend to have an insight into these sort of things. That would never happen. I've seen your uncanny ability to read people, but I'm only hypothetically speaking. So what would you do if they were guilty? I suppose I'd withdraw and tell them to find another lawyer. And if no one else would represent them? I don't know, it would definitely be a hard choice for me. But I would never be able to represent them if I knew the truth. I just can't stand by and let a murderer escape justice. I see. Why do you ask? No reason. Okay. Anyway, she's made her stance clear. You still have a lot of leads to follow up on. You should move somewhere else. So much Beatrice's bedroom. Oh, God, they like black. Come on, Tracker, where are you? And two. As you enter Beatrice's room, you've unexpectedly met with a cloud of dust. Wow, this place has not been cleaned. Huh. Your vision clears up and you realize that there's someone else in this room, in the room with you. Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. No, there's no need to apologize. But I would like to know what you're doing here. We're here on behalf of the Crown Prince. We're investigating the murder of William Frager. Oh, I see. My apologies, I didn't quite get your name. My name is Leif. Leif Frager. Leave. So this is Leif. According to Steelwind, she was the last person to see Lord Frager alive yesterday. She might have some information about how he was acting that night. What did you see? I'm sorry for your loss, Lady Frager, but do you mind if I ask you some questions about last night? Of course. Prosecutor Steelwind told us that you were the last person to see him alive. Did you notice anything unusual about your father's behavior? Well, he was extremely upset about something. I think Beatrice may have offended him during the meeting. The servants said that he wanted to be left alone. He retreated into his study immediately after their meeting. I tried to speak with him when the theft was reported, but he didn't much care about the missing artifact. You know, Fragers are thieves. Are a bit of a thing, aren't they? He was probably busy making changes to his will. He told me to leave him alone and let the Kingsguard investigate the sword. Now that's an interesting thought. When did you speak with him last? It was before they activated the lockdown. It was a little after 1 AM that night. Leif's testimony. Handy. And do you have any idea what he was doing in his study? What? No, I have no idea. Was that the glitch from... You detect some fear from her. Lady Frager, is there something you're not telling us? It's important that we know about your father's actions before his death. I'm sorry, I don't just know anything else. My father was a private man and didn't share much with anyone, even his own family. I wish I could be more... I wish I could be of more help. But I really don't know anything else. I refuse to believe that's why he was killed. She's clearly holding something back. If you could reveal what she's hiding through an argument, she might be more willing to cooperate. But you'll need more information about William and his will first. In the meantime, you should figure out what else she knows. I noticed that this room hasn't been cleaned in a while. Do you know why? It's because I've forbidden the servants from cleaning this room. What? And why would you do that? Beatrice is very dear to me. And I couldn't bear to have her room disturbed after she left. This room was the only memory I had of her after she left. You suppose that makes sense? She must be holding on to the hope that her sister would return. And what about the sort of spell eating? Do you know how it ended up in this room? I'm not sure. It's possible someone planted it here to frame Beatrice. I can't say why they would choose this room though. What kind of person was your father? Not a good person. Complicated. Doesn't look like William Frager was very beloved. My father was a complicated man. He was a brilliant scholar and a businessman, but he was cold and distant. He was a cold and distant father. I see. Did he have any enemies? As the head of House Frager, he controlled nearly every banking house in Wyvengard. There were many people who resented his wealth and power. Can you remember anyone specific? Perhaps someone that he'd slighted recently? There was Lloyd von Sanctus. The ruling lord of Aranax? Yes, I heard that he was recently involved in a court case. My father has been using the controversy as an opportunity to slowly take control of von Sanctus Industries. And from what I've heard, he's been extremely bitter about it. Von Sanctus's reputation must have taken a hit after the Draken trials then. You doubt he'd get himself involved in another murder. But you never know. You'll want to speak with him and get more details. Although, would he even cooperate with you? Anyways, are there any other enemies he might have had? No, not that I could think of. Beatrice Frager. What can you tell me about Beatrice Frager? I heard that she fled the Frager estate. 5 years ago. Before she left, Beatrice was one of the most powerful mages I'd ever seen. She is incredible. At the age of 13, her talent for magic had even eclipsed my father's. But it was never enough for him. He was jealous. What do you mean? Before my mother died, he desperately wanted us son. But he only ever had daughters. Everyone thought that Beatrice would inherit House Frege from my father, but our family knew the truth. William Frege would never leave his legacy in the hands of a woman. What? No matter how hard Beatrice tried, my father would never acknowledge her accomplishments. He was extremely cruel to her. He constantly belittled her achievements and dismissed anything she said to him. And after the accident, he used her disability as an excuse to take away the little influence she had. There was an accident that gave her a disability. Is that why she's blind? Let's see, what can we present? Nope. Okay. Even after being blinded, Beatrice continued to fight for her freedom. Despite everything that happened to her, she's always remained determined to live her life on her own terms. I remember when she first came back to the estate after her accident, my father was convinced that she'd be helpless without her sight. But she refused to let her blindness define her. She learned how to navigate the estate using her other senses and continued to study magic. It's ironic, really. My father tried to use her disability as a way to control her, but in the end, it was the very thing that allowed her to break free. I'm sure Beatrice's return must have been surprising for you. It is, to be honest. I've been hoping for years she'd return. But now that she has, she's just gone and pulled into another one of our family's messes. Yay! The accident. If it's not too painful, could you tell me more about Beatrice's accident? Is this even relevant to the investigation? Any small detail could make a difference. I need to learn everything I can. I'm not sure about what happened, but it was a magical experiment gone wrong. Beatrice was working on a project at the Imperial Academy. She was trying to create a new spell formula. We're still not sure what happened, but there was an adverse magical reaction. The resulting explosion seriously injured her and left her completely blind. I can't imagine how he must have taken it. Actually, she was probably the most unfazed by what happened. But that didn't matter. My father saw his opportunity. He told me that he was relieving her of her duties so that she could recover. But I knew the truth. He was going to take away her political power and social standing. She was reduced to a mere decoration for our home. That must be why she left. Did she contact you during the time she was missing? No, no one had heard from her during that time. But as much as I worried for her, I was also a little happy. Unlike Miriam, finally, she had finally, and I, unlike Miriam and I, she had finally broken free from from my father. I have no idea what would cause her to return here. Huh? We didn't even need an argument. Storage room. And you get to the storage room, hoping to investigate the air vent that connects to Lord Frager's study. When you come across a person laying on the floor. What? Jan, is that you? Oh man. What's with all the noise? I was having such a good nap too. Mr. Hughes? Whoa, it's you two. Why are you taking a nap in the storage room? I needed to take a break from all the chaos. The King's Guard won't let us leave until they finish investigating the murder. And this pompous noble shooed me away when I tried sleeping on one of the couches. I didn't expect anyone to find me here. Anyways, the prosecutor told us that you heard the murder from here during the lockdown. Do you think you could tell us what happened? Sure, why not? He looks like he's wearing pajamas. My nap's kind of ruined anyway. Jan Hughes. So you're working as a servant now? Not exactly. But I was part of the catering staff. The twins started their own food business after Frager threw us out of the academy. Right. Sorry about that. Nah, it's not your fault. Even if Redmond was still headmaster, I'm sure the board would have found some other way to get rid of us. Wait, Valentina and Valerie here too? No, they just contracted some staff to look to Lord Frager for the Lord's Ball. I think a bunch of other businesses did the same thing. You wonder how they feel about this. They lent their services to the very man who got them fired in the first place. William must have offered them a lot of gold. Man, I can't believe I got myself into another murder investigation. Do I have bad luck or what? The prosecutor told us that you had you heard the altercation through the vent, Evans. Could you tell us exactly what you heard? Well, I didn't hear everything. I was taking a nap in this room when it happened. Why were you even napping here? I didn't have a choice. I accidentally closed the door when the lock was engaged. Before I knew it, I was trapped here. Right, you recall Sealwood mentioning that. I heard the sound of some kind of struggle going on. I could hear I could hear everything. I heard Lord Frege shout, "Who are you? What do you want?" That went on for a few seconds. Then I heard the sound of someone getting stabbed. Did you hear? Did you hear the voice of the assailant? They didn't say anything, but I did hear them. Their voice was really raspy. I think they had a sore throat or something. Or they were trying to mask their voice. Why did you enter the storage room anyways? The servants were complaining about... The servants were complaining about the rats running through the air vents, so they sent me to take care of them. I heard one running into the vents and I followed it here. I figured it had nowhere else to go, so I opened it up and put a trap down. After I was done, I tried to leave, but the door was locked. So I didn't have anything else to do, so I took a nap. Rats in the vents. He only heard a few words before the murderer struck the final blow. Doesn't give you much to go on, but his testimony could become relevant later. For now, you should move somewhere else and gather more information. Oh, we've been to the room. Been to the study. Oh, there's a thought. What's wrong? You can't see it, but the entire room is covered in traces of abjuration magic. Everything is glowing white. Right, that makes sense. There were several anti-magic fields covering the manor. Those fields were probably left traces of abjuration everywhere. I won't bother showing you the traces of abjuration I find while we're here then.
Repario Arcanum.
There's a trace of illusion magic where the body was found. The assailant must have used some kind of magical disguise. or they turned themselves invisible. There's a pool of blood and chalk, and a chalk outline where the body must have been. Okay, nothing of it. We've to the storage room, ballroom. Okay, storage room. No. William Frigga study, right? It's definitely something to examine then. There's a window that leads into this room. Could the murderer possibly have escaped through here? No, the window doesn't open, and the glass is magically reinforced. Okay. There's a large mahogany table at the end of the room. Lord Frege must have done his work here. It's a bookshelf filled with books. I wonder what kind of books Lord Frege owned. Wait a minute, they're all blank. All of his books are on the floor or his desk. There are several books on economics and politics. I seem to get a good note. Fireplace. It's a fireplace. Could the murderer have entered through here? That wouldn't be possible either. The chimney is far too narrow. Even a small child wouldn't be thin enough to fit through it. It's a painting of some scholar. Rook Resigner. Yeah, something tells me he's not good at chess. Economic scholar and aristocrat accountant. He was known in some circles as Rook the Cook, due to his abilities to cook the books of the Four Pillars houses. Rook the Cook. Sometimes I wish I could have a nickname like that. What about Crimson Demon? Not that one. Right, okay.
Repario Arcanum.
It's a dress covered in leather.
Repario Arcanum.
Oh! There's a trace of transmutation magic under the bed. I can't see it clearly. Let me take a closer look. It's Crimson Lotus! What? It's my sword! What? You never knew that her sword had a name. So this is where it's been. But why would it be here? This is also the room where the sword of spell eating. Are the two thefts related somehow? Why? The only thing similar about them is the fact that they're both swords. That's definitely more. There's definitely more to this, but what? I think I've learned everything Perhaps you should move us elsewhere. Ah, the sitting room. New place, unlocked. You explore the matter further and find one of its many sitting rooms. There you spot a very familiar face. He's sipping on a glass of wine and his expression turns disdainful the moment you enter the room. Oh, how wonderful. As if my day couldn't have gotten any worse. Von Sanctus, what are you doing here? The head of a noble house has just been murdered. I can't very well return to Oronax when my affairs are in such disarray. Anyways, what I'm doing here. Forget what I'm doing here. What are you doing here? Oh, I just wanted to have a friendly chat with one of my favourite noblemen. I heard that you've been keeping busy since we last met. It must be difficult losing your entire empire to House Frege. Turion, we do need his help. Is that so? And what makes you think I'd ever help the likes of you? Because it would take suspicion of you off of you. And let's face it, with your reputation, you could use all the help you could get. How dare you? I'll have you know I'm a respected member of the nobility. Respected? Is that why everyone here is talking about your hand in Justin Way's death? Because the way I see it, being involved in another scandal would have destroyed what little remains of your reputation. But it makes no difference to me, and to be perfectly honest, I'd like nothing more than to drag you onto the stand and embarrass you a second time. You can practically hear him grinding his gears together. Very well. If it means I won't enjoy your presence any longer, I'll oblige and answer your questions. Von Sanctus's word. Honestly, it's just one mess after another with you. Mess, wouldn't you have much to gain from William Frege's death? On a surface level, you might be right, but it's far more complicated than that. House Frege controls the banks. They are the main pillar of support for Wyvern Guard's economy. William's death could have unimaginable economic consequences regardless of who inherits his house. I wouldn't be foolish enough to do something like that. That remains to be seen. Humph. Think what you will. There are others who would benefit from William Frege's death. Main suspect. You mentioned the other people who other people would benefit from Frege's death. Who specifically? If I had to venture a guess, I would say Lucio Steelwind benefits the most. Do you mean the prosecutor's father? But you just said that Lord Frege's death could have unimaginable consequences for the economy. Ha! Do you think that brute cares about Wyvern Guard's economy? No, all that man cares about is power, pure physical power. House Steelwind and House Frege have been fighting for control of Wyvern Guard for generations. And in this long-lasted era of peace, the Steelwind's military have become far less valuable to the crown. If it weren't for Lady Steelwind's engagement to the crown prince, they might even be considered, might not even be considered a pillar family anymore. The death of William Frege is probably exactly what Lucius Steelwind has been waiting for. And if our economy were to suffer, it would cause civil unrest. In a scenario like that, the crown would have to rely on the Steelwind's forces to maintain order. That does make sense, but could Arya's father really be involved with this? Other suspects. It's clear that you think Lucio Steelwind would have much to gain from this, but can you think of anyone else? Well, there is Harold Haraldson. That can't be his real name. But what would Mr. Haraldson possibly gain from Frege's death? From what I've heard, William was planning to defund Haraldson Hall of History. Really? Why would he do that? I'm not sure of the specifics, but supposedly Lord Haraldson has refused to omit the less flattering parts of Wyvern history from his exhibits. It's gotten blatant enough that he's drawn the ire of the king himself. They actually got into a very heated argument during the Lord's Ball about it. I heard that William declared he would be removing House Haraldson from his estate. You don't want to suspect Mr. Haraldson, but you need to examine every possibility. As the curator, he would have easiest access to the sword of spell eating, and he could have staged a robbery to cover his tracks. At the very least, you should give Mr. Haraldson a chance to explain himself. What can you tell me about the defense in this case? What? She's your client? She's your client. Surely you know her better than I. Humor me. Well, I'm sure you're aware that she fled the Drager estate 5 years ago. In doing so, she dealt a blow to House Frege's reputation and directly insulted the crown prince by breaking her engagement to him. Wait, Beatrice was engaged to Asta? Yes, it was quite a scandal at the time. And Lucio wasted no time in pushing his daughter into taking Beatrice's place. Oh, is that why those three were so awkward last night? Honestly, this situation is just an absolute mess. That woman's return will complicate things. Beatrice's return to complicates things. What did he mean by that? Beatrice's return. Do you find Beatrice's return to be inconvenient for you? What are you on about? Oh, please don't insult my intelligence, Von Sanctus. Fine, if you must know, my son was arranged to marry William's daughter, Leif. Leif? Since Beatrice showed no signs of return. It was apparent that Leif would inherit the House Frege instead of her. I know when my days are numbered, so I took a preemptive action. William wanted a male heir, and I needed to preserve my house. So we both came to an accord. My son and Leif were arranged to be wed. House von Sanctus would have been absorbed, but at least my Jaden would stand at the helm of House Frege. You nobles are absolutely awful. I should probably consider myself. Think what you will, but I wouldn't expect a commoner to understand. That's the problem with your generation. You have no sense of duty or obligation. Leif has already expressed resistance to this marriage, even though she was well aware of the details. Now I worry she'll hide behind her sister to end the engagement altogether. Leif never mentioned any of this. And as much as you hate to think it, William's death would get her out of this arranged marriage. You should talk to her about this. You've probably learned. It's best to move. To follow up with some lead. Oh, let's stop. Move. Okay, so I think we start by what was William doing? Lady Frege seems to be hiding what her father is doing in his study. You doubt that she's doing this out of malice. She might not even think that it's relevant to the case. But William Frege has had many enemies. He retreated into his study to do something that night. And that something could be related to why he was murdered. Begin the argument. Is there something you're not telling us, Leif? Because I have a feeling that you know more than you're letting on. What? Why was your father... What was your father doing in this study? I already told you, I don't know. I have no idea what my father was doing. My father was a private man. He wouldn't share something like that with me. After his retreat, he refused to speak with... When she told... He was making some sort of change to his will, wasn't he? What? Did it... Why did you find the need to hide this from us? I didn't... The thoughts you saw seem to disagree with that. We've only just met today, so I understand if you don't trust us. But the Inquisition thinks that Beatrice murdered your father, and they claim that she did so for his inheritance. That's absolutely absurd. Regardless, your father's inheritance is a likely motive behind his murder. Many people would have a lot to gain from his death, including you. Excuse me? I was not involved in this. How could you think that I'd be capable of something like this? Prosecution clearly won't shy away from prosecuting members of your family. I'm not. I'm not so sure you were the last person. Doubt rash. Oh, so psychological profile. She's usually so. It's unlikely that she is actually involved in her. She might react well if you respond with a similar sincerity. She believes Beatrice's innocence over everything else. I didn't mean to imply that you. I didn't mean to imply that you were involved in this. But it's clear that the murderer's motive was to take control of House Frege. This means that their plan heavily relied on who William Frege was leaving his assets to. So I need to know, Miss Frege, how was your father planning to change his will? I don't know. I was never aware of the details of my father's will. I've told you, my father was a secretive man. He didn't share the details of the his estate with me. Oh, okay. Do I have the evidence? He refused to speak. Who thought you know? Alright, as part of the Leif, do how this. So would that be in the will? Is that really true though? I already know about your arranged marriage to Jaden von Sanctus. I also know that as a part of this deal, Jaden would inherit House Frey instead of you. You definitely knew about this. You heavily resisted the marriage in an attempt to stall it. Which means that you had some idea of how your father's will was arranged. So what aren't you telling me, Miss Frege? I can't trust you. What? You are here on the behalf of the Crown Prince. The four pillars of families in the Crown have much to gain from my father's death. How could you assure that this information won't be used against my family? So that's why she's been so secretive. There's nothing I could possibly say. I may have been but I'm an independent agent. treat you as a... I'm a feeling appealing is way to go. Wait. Please understand, I'm only trying to find out who... There's nothing I can possibly say to make you trust me. But please, I'm only trying to find out who murdered your father. And to do that, I need to know everything that he was doing that night. I have no reason to trust you. Somehow, I can tell that you're being sincere. Will you really protect Beatrice? You're about to reassure her that you will, but something in the back of your mind stops you. I'll get to the truth of what really happened. Okay, if that's truly what you're planning to do, I'll tell you what I know. What was William doing? I wasn't trying to be uncooperative, but I didn't know who I could trust. Considering the circumstances, that's pretty understandable. I'm not sure why, but my father was extremely upset that night. According to him, Beatrice had returned and was even more impudent than before. He must have been angry about something that she said during their meetings. Did he tell you about their meeting? About what their meeting was about? He didn't. I honestly didn't really care. I was just so happy that my sister had finally returned. But my father clearly felt the opposite. Before he entered his study, he told me that he would be pruning the family tree. He was going to disinherit my sister and several other members of our family. He probably started drafting a new will to reflect that decision. Has anyone found the draft of this will? No, it was one of the first things I looked for after the investigation began. The modified will is missing. You doubt that it would even be enforced. He never got a chance for it to submit it for probate before he died. But you can't discount the possibility that the murderer destroyed it. Does anyone else know about this? No one. I didn't even tell Lady Steele when she was questioning me. Because it would have given Beatrice a motive to commit the murder. Anyways, thank you, Miss Freerica. Mr. Cuthbert? Yes? My sister is not a bad person. There's no way she'd do something like this. Despite what she says, She seems to have some doubts. She's in good hands. Ruby Tybor is the one defending her in trial, after all. I hope so. Anyways, you think you've learned everything you can from Leif. There's only one last person to speak to, Harold Haraldson. To the gallery. This is a complete mess. As you enter the gallery, you spot Haraldson inspecting the shattered remains of the display case. If you recall correctly, this display case he's looking at, there's more stuff that's stolen. Is this he's working for the Crown Prince. Could he be trusted? Oh, Mr. Cuthbert, I had a feeling I'd see you again. It seems word spread about your deal with Asta. Hello again, Mr. Haraldson. Harold. Right, Harold. I'm sure that you already know I'm investigating the murder of William Frege. He just likes being called Harold. The prosecution suspects that someone used the sword of spell eating to break into Lord Frege's room. I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions about the theft last night. I'll tell you what I had, but I'm not sure how much help I'll be. It's a display case that held the armbands of intellect is empty. Display case holding them completely untouched.
Repario Arcanum.
There are traces of evocation magic on the shattered glass. Evocation magic is the school of magic that creates and unleashes raw energy. It's the most primal of the 7 schools of magic. Someone must have used a powerful spell to blast the display case apart. Display case is just completely shattered. The thief wouldn't. Right. Talk. The artifacts. I can't believe a museum owned such a powerful magic item. I would have expected the noble houses to take them for themselves. Well, the nobility of today don't have much use for items such as these. The power of a lord is based on politics rather than magical strength. And a noble wouldn't want to wield the sword of a demon, even if the legends are just stories. A demon. Oh right, this horde of spell eating is said to have been forged from a pact between a demon and a mage. Is it making a pact with a demon just asking for trouble? They definitely betray you the first chance they got. Well, legends say that demons often drafted blood contracts for this reason. Do you mean like a legally blinding contract? The concept is similar, but once you sign a blood contract, both you and the demon are compelled to fulfill its terms. It's said that it's said that violating its terms will result in instant death for the offender, no matter who it is. So I guess there's some protection. Well, as an attorney, I'm sure you understand that it's possible to exploit and use loopholes in any contract. And according to the legends, demons take great pride in their ability to deceive and corrupt people. The theft. According to the prosecution, the theft took place during the Lord's Ball. Shouldn't there have been plenty of witnesses in the gallery at that time? That's the strangest thing. Supposedly, the gallery was completely empty when it happened. What? That can't be right. And honestly, I have no idea how anyone could produce enough magic to shatter the display cases anyway. Were the wards protecting the cases that powerful? They were powerful, but that's not the issue here. It would be one thing to dispel the wards and remove the glass protecting it. But it would be another thing entirely to completely annihilate the abjuration wards and shatter them and shatter the glass. Doing something like that would require an extremely powerful spell, far more powerful than what would have been needed. There's only really one person who could have done it. So you're saying that the force applied was excessive? Yes, so that's not the worst of it. It's clear the sword of spell eating wasn't the only item that was stolen in. I love the monkey. The monkey's amazing. What was the other? Was another artifact stolen that night? Other stolen items. You mentioned another item that was stolen. Yes, it's extremely concerning. After the spell of sword eating was reported missing, I checked the other exhibits. That's when I discovered the armbands of intellect had been stolen as well. And unlike the sword of stealing, we still haven't found the sword of stealing. It's a stealing sword. The sword of spell eating, we still haven't found the armbands. You look at the glass case where the armbands used to be. They've been removed, but in the glass case, the glass case is completely intact. But the thief didn't shatter the glass. Exactly. Moreover, the armbands were replaced with a very well-made replica. What? What was going on here? The two thefts are completely different from one another. Are they even related? Or did two different thieves coincidentally steal from Harold that night? The thief. You mentioned that someone would have needed a powerful spell to shatter shatter the display case. Would that narrow down the list of suspects for the theft? Not everyone attending the ball could cast spells that powerful. Well, according to the Inquisition, Beatrice's magic was powerful enough to have done this. Discounting the fact that she's completely blind. Yes, I'm well aware of that. It doesn't sit quite right with me either. Was there anyone else at the Lord's Ball of matching Beatrice's power? Only the heads of the four pillars could invoke magic this powerful. But apparently Beatrice is an exception to that. Is Beatrice really that powerful, or is she being scapegoated by one of the house leaders? But the cases can be opened normally, can't they? Otherwise, how would you transport the artifacts from place to place? Ah, yes, the magical locks can be disabled. To detect some fear, is he hiding something? How are they normally disabled? They could be turned on and off using a spoken password. And how many people know this password? Only myself. I personally oversee the transport of these items when they're moved. Noted. So Harold could have stolen the sword that night. Could he have staged a robbery to cover his tracks? Defunding the defunding. Harold, witness told us that you got into an argument with William Frager on the night of the murder. Was William Frager planning on defunding the Haraldson Hall of History? Yes, he was. He made that very clear. But that doesn't mean even that I had anything to do with his murder. We're not saying that you did, but I need to explore every possibility. So, I need to ask, did your argument that night turn hostile? I'll admit that our discussion turned heated, but it never escalated to threats or violence. With how insulting it it should have. William was being completely unreasonable, and I was frustrated. But that's all there was to it. He deserved what happened to him. Showing more resentment than he's letting on. Did you have any conflicts with him prior to that night? We have had disagreements in the past. He was receiving pressure from the royal family. About what I was displaying in my museum. The king believed that some of my exhibits were too controversial for the public eye. What do you mean? I'm sure you've noticed the rising tension between the common folk and the nobility. I've never been one to shy away from the bloodier parts of Wyvern history. Citizens must know about these parts of histories, otherwise we're liable to repeat them. However, the king believed that my historical exhibits did nothing but dig up old wounds. Nothing but simpletons, the lot of them. The nobility thinks they can smooth public relations by censoring history, as if they couldn't get any worse. Anyways, it's clear that Harold is compassionate about his work. Would that passion drive him to commit murder, though? Thank you for your time, Harold. Harold. Was it? He's just gotten in such a habit of saying Harold that it's he's just said. I think we'll be on our way now. We have a lot of info, but none of it really leads anywhere. So many people had a motive to murder William Frager, but who actually did it? Perhaps you should take some time to review what you've learned. Okay, some kind of mini... Yeah, there it is. Motives aside, let's go over the events that happened last night. It all started when the Sword of Spell Eating was stolen. What do we know about the thief of the Sword of Spell Eating? Keep wanting to call it this Sword of Stealing. We don't have a specific suspect, but we do know something about them. The thief is a powerful mage. It would be one thing to spell the wards, but to remove glass protecting. But it's all another thing entirely to completely annihilate the duration wards and shatter the glass. Doing something like that would require extremely powerful spell, far more powerful than what would have been needed. The thief was a powerful mage. That's the only way they could have shattered the magically reinforced glass. But what about Harold? He could have just unlocked it using his password. He could have stolen the sword and staged a robbery, but he couldn't have shattered the glass. Only a powerful mage could have done that, and I doubt Harold would lie about that when we could easily confirm it with Steelwind. Right, but then what happened next? They brazenly stole the Sword of Spell Eating. This caused Harold to report theft to the Kingsguard. After Lord Haraldson reported the theft, the Inquisition discreetly placed the matter on the lockdown. They searched every room in the manor to try and find it. It was eventually found in Beatrice's bedroom. That led them to believe that she had stolen it. That's correct. The King's Guard moved to arrest her, but Prince Asta ordered them to step down. And there's Leif's statement. My father was extremely upset about something. I think Beatrice may have offended him during their meeting. The servants said he wanted to be left alone. He retreated into his study immediately after their meeting. I tried to speak with him when the thief was reported, but he didn't much care about the missing artifact. This happened before they activated the lockdown. It was a little after 1 a.m. that night. What does this tell us about William Frager? He's not a nice man. Leif gives a clear fact about when William died. William died. No. Before his study. Okay, so the time of death was after this account. It's unlikely that Leif saw someone else disguised as her father. It had to have been him. William Frager was murdered after the lockdown was activated. This means whoever killed him bypassed the lockdown and broke into the magically locked room. They had to have used the sword, right? That's likely, but not necessarily true. An anti-magic field would have also had the same effect. The murderer could have stolen the sword of spell eating to throw off the investigation. But the anti-magic field is high level magic. Not many mages would be able to cast it. But I doubt any nobles here will let us see their spell compendiums. Because of how powerful anti-magic field is, you could still conclude that the murderer is a powerful mage. That actually narrows down our list of suspects. Still not concrete evidence, though. We haven't even spoken to all of the suspects yet. Right, you never got to speak with Lucio Steelwind. But given his status, you wonder if that would even be possible. Either way, it's a good start, and it's not as if we're defending this case. The trial is getting close anyways. You don't doubt Miss Tymora's abilities, but you should share what you've learned with her before the trial begins. But she might. To the dungeon! You arrive at the dungeon in search for Miss Tymora. She wasn't at the crime scene, so she must be here to discuss the case with Beatrice. Well, at least that's what you thought, but you don't see her anywhere. Oh, Mr. Cuthbert. Oh, hi. You were so caught up in your thoughts, you didn't notice that you were talking right in front of Beatrice's cell. I didn't expect you to see you here. Celeste shrieks as Eris approaches you two from behind. For a split second, you see her hand dart towards her sword. It appears that she still hasn't gotten over her instinctual fear of Eris. Eris, what are you doing here? Ah, Beatrice. This is actually an acquaintance of my father. He sent me here to help her through this ordeal. That brings up many more questions, but you don't have time to pull on that thread. You have less than an hour before the trial begins. You need to find Miss Timora. Have you seen Miss Timora? I have some things to share with her. Ah, she was just here. But she left to retrieve some documents from her office. Do you have any ideas when she's back? She didn't say, but if your discussion has something to do with the case, I could pass on a message to her. You feel a little hesitant, but it is her life on the line. If anyone should know about what you found during your investigation, it's her. Okay, let me tell you what I know. You spent your time going through your findings with Beatrice. From your list of suspects to the possible motives behind the murder, you notice that with each revelation she becomes more uneasy. The idea of someone framing her must be stressing her out. I see. You've certainly been very thorough. Yes, but I still have no concrete evidence that points to anyone. We underestimated him. If he reveals these findings to Prince Asta, he might suspect something. What? Sorry, I was just deep in thought. And you were able to catch one of those thoughts. I'm sure you're aware that Prince Asta has your best interests at heart. Even though we haven't spoken in years, I still consider him a dear friend. And I suppose you have no issue with me sharing these findings with him. Of course not. This is bad. Even he would support us if he knew that I was involved. Wait, what was that? Her thoughts just said that she was involved. Did she actually murder her father? Is something wrong, Mr. Cuthbert? You look a little pale. And there's no glitch effect to indicate illusion. Which I'm certain last time was illusion. Beatrice was actually behind this, but how? She's completely blind. She could have navigated through the matter and avoided the guards. No, you must be taking her thoughts out of context. That's it. Mr. Cuthbert, perhaps you should get some rest. You look dreadfully tired. You think very carefully about what about what to say next. There's only one way to get a certain answer through the eye. But if you're wrong, Beatrice, you weren't actually involved in this, were you? Turion. You see her gaze narrowed in response to your question. Once again, she claps her hands together. She clearly trying to stay calm. Do you suspect me now, Mr. Cuthbert? You didn't answer my question, Beatrice. As if I'd even need to justify it with a response. But no, Mr. Cuthbert. At least not directly. I was technically an accomplice. Huh. But no, Mr. Cuthbert. I was not responsible for my father's murder. An accomplice. Did she work together with someone? Cuthbert! Miss Timora. Your mentor seems to have sensed the mood in the air. She raises an eyebrow at you. Miss Timora, can I speak with you alone for a second? Okay. What's wrong? Is everything okay? Miss Timora, Beatrice, she actually did murder William Frager. Miss Timora, his gaze narrows. Her eyes dart around the room to make sure the guards didn't overhear you. What are you talking about? How could you possibly know that? I used the Eye of Horus on her. She conspired with someone to orchestrate William Frager's death. Have you told anyone about this? No. It's not as if they believe me anyway. You're the only other person who knows about my abilities. Okay, just stay quiet about this for the time being. Anyways, I need to get ready. The trial starts in half an hour. What? You're not seriously going to defend her, are you? Of course I am. I'm her attorney. But she's guilty. I saw it. Look, at this point, I don't know what you saw. Do you think I can just abandon a client minutes before a trial? No, but... It's not for either of us to decide who's guilty and who's not. Everyone has a right to an attorney. Our court system needs a defense attorney and a prosecutor to keep things fair. More importantly, you had no right to use the Eye of Horus on my client without my permission. What? But... We will be talking about this later. Before you had have a chance to respond, Miss Timora walks away. Celeste sees both of you awkwardly approaches you. Hey Turion, is everything okay? Celeste, I think Beatrice was actually behind this. What? You don't blame her for not believing you. It's not as if you could tell her about the Eye of Horus. And though, why haven't you told her? Alright, I believe you. What? Why wouldn't you say something like that if you weren't sure, right? But if what you're saying is true, what do we do now? You think long and hard for a moment. I don't think we do anything. What? Steelwind is handling the prosecution. She's definitely no pushover. Beatrice is truly guilty. I'll just have to trust her to get the job done. Either way, I don't think we're in any position to get involved. If you say so. It's really none of your business. You have no stake in this. You're not obligated to do anything. You've done everything you can. It's in their hands now. It's none of your business. This isn't your fight. William Frager was a tyrant and a bigot. He's a noble who did nothing but steal wealth from the common folk. The world is better off without him. And it's not as if you didn't try. All you have to do is wait for the trial to run its course.
Objection!
Your Honor, I'm afraid you can't pass judgment just yet. Mr. Cuthbert? Cuthbert! What the hell are you doing here? I don't know. What I do know is there is a massive contradiction in Miriam Frieger's testimony. Who were you kidding? As if you were ever the type of person to stand by and do nothing. I think we'll leave it there. It's an odd place to leave it, but one needs must. Yeah, well. Yeah, no. Oh, just looking at the time. Yeah, I'm going to have to leave it there. Was considering, but brief consideration. But no, I cannot. I don't think I can go on that much longer. I have a. But on that note, I will catch you all on the flip side. We will be. This won't be a stream until Monday. But won't be a stream until Monday. But hey. Just the anticipation. Catch you all later. Or on the flip side, whatever. See ya. For more Turion.